Minister Khalifa says an investigation will be conducted to determine which of the three firearms fired the fatal shot that killed Alexandra resident Samantha Khadebe. He visited the family of the 28-year-old who was shot and killed during a crossfire between police and suspects on Wednesday. Well, the minister started off by meeting community leaders at the police station. Samantha's death sparked anger in this township and the community marched to the local police station. Khalifa has called for calm. He later visited Samantha's family. They too are demanding answers. The minister has assured Khadebe's family and the community that a proper investigation into the shooting will be conducted. Another suspect was also wounded during the same crossfire. Samantha had two children, a 1-year-old and a 6-year-old. She will be buried next weekend.
The real issue that brought us here, besides the condolences, we were very worried about the relationship of the police and the community. That is one thing that cannot be allowed to lapse, the relationship. Because if you allow the relationship of the police and the community to lapse, we are opening a space for criminals to do as they wish. We have agreed with the community that that cannot be allowed to happen. If there is a problem between, we'll come back, we'll patch that, we'll work together, and the rest issues, there'll be many follow-up meetings here in Alex from the level of the ministry, from the level of the MSC and the local leadership. We hope that at the end of the day, situation will be sorted out, will be fine. Looking at the crime situation is not a very ideal crime situation. Things are not too good. That's one thing that we want to fix here in Alex, so that the people of Alex, they live better life under a better, peaceful conditions than allowing criminals to run the city.
Gauteng Education MEC, that's Editor Sophie, has visited the home of deceased grade 7 learner Keamohetswe Sean Seboko in Eldorado Park, south of Johannesburg. MEC Sophie conveyed condolences to the family. The 13-year-old learner from Laer School Becker in Magaliesburg was found dead in the school's hospital swimming pool on Wednesday afternoon.
It was a difficult session to preside over. The family has lots and lots of questions, and they feel that there are things that are unexplained. And I assured them, like we normally do when there is incident like this, we put an independent forensic team to give a report that we can share with the family. But because of the questions the family were raising, we felt that instead of waiting for the report to be finalized, we might need to bring a preliminary report to the family as well, so that we can deal with these things. The thing that makes this tragedy so painful is that besides the boy Kamo, there are two other family members that were at the same school. And they've indicated in no uncertain terms that they don't want to go back to the school. So we just have to deal with that aspect. But because the pool is the center of disputes on the basis of explanations, I've issued the instruction that that pool must be sealed off. No one must be in that pool until we have received the report that we are waiting for. But secondly, the family feels there might be an element of bullying as well. So we've asked the district to conduct an audit on bullying so that we can understand the challenges that bullying might bring to the learners. But on behalf of government, we are emotionally destroyed, to be quite frank. We extended our condolences to the family. We've assured them of our support. We've also assured them that whatever that we do as a department will ensure that they've got the relevant information that they can utilize.
Keamohetswe's aunt says the family is not happy with the circumstances of the death and they want answers.
As the member of the family, actually I'm the aunt to Kamo. Yeah, we're deeply saddened by the death of our boy, which we're looking forward to his life because he was still very young. Yeah, I like to just share my views with you to say, yeah, we've got so many questions that are unanswered. I think there's a lot of foul play from the school which we need answers from. We even discussed this with the principal and he has promised that he will give answers. And we really appreciate that they will come back to us. And again, I just want to send my thanks to the MEC and his crew to say they came to us in this difficult time to say we're with you, we share the pain with you. We really appreciate. But yeah, it's not easy, guys. It's not easy. We can't send our children to schools, and at the end of the day, so many parents that are there, we left the soul like this and just an innocent soul like this. So we are so saddened. But yeah, only God knows everything will be fine.
Large School Becker says they are saddened by the death and send their deepest condolences.
When it comes to children, how can we express our sincere condolences to the family? This has had a big impact on our school, but we've done everything in our power to give the police and give everybody the right to come and give a solution and give us information that we can give to the family. We've tried to assist as far as you can, but to lose a child is not something that you can replace. So from our side, once again, our sincere condolences to the family.
On the international front, Turkish Foreign Minister, that's Mevlut Cavusoglu, met Italian Foreign Minister Luigi Di Maio in Berlin ahead of the summit aimed at ending hostilities against all facilities in Libya. Well, this one-day summit brings together Libyan rival camps and indeed their foreign backers in Berlin to discuss ways to end a proxy war over the capital, Tripoli, and the oil producer, which has already displaced 140,000 people and now more than halved the country's crude output. Let's take a closer look. Well, Germany and the United Nations hope to persuade Russia, Turkey, the United Arab Emirates and Egypt to push their opposing camps to agree on a lasting truce in Tripoli, home to the internationally recognized government. Libya has been in a state of violent flux since a NATO air campaign in 2011 led to the downfall of its strong-arm leader Muammar Gaddafi. Italy was most directly impacted by the resulting chaos, which triggered a wave of migration to its shores and has sought to lead subsequent stabilization efforts. Meanwhile, protesters have gathered in the Libyan cities of Benghazi and Tripoli to reject the summit. They say they are not expecting much from this meeting and rejected Turkish interference in Libyan affairs. In the capital of Tripoli, hundreds of people gathered after a funeral was held for one of the cadets injured in the January 4th strike on a military academy there. Protesters gathered there decried the internationally recognized government for agreeing to meet with Libyan National Army Khalifa Haftar general, saying they had betrayed those who died in the fighting which erupted in April of last year. Well, joining me to discuss a little bit more on the talks is our foreign editor, that's Sophie Mokoena. Good afternoon, Ma'am Sophie, and thank you so much for joining us on the desk. Tell us why this is such a high-stakes summit at this juncture.
Well, it is indeed an important gathering, even though many on the continent in particular are questioning the wisdom of having this meeting outside the continent, because it is a continental matter and therefore the continent must take a lead in resolving this issue. You know that different camps and also different world powers have taken sides on this issue. You have those who are supporting the government in Tripoli, and there are those who are supporting General Haftar. And therefore, it is very difficult to bring the two parties together. They went to Russia last week, but there was no solution, even though they did agree to a ceasefire. And therefore, today, there's hope that perhaps a better solution will be found. But I doubt if that will happen. If you look at the protest in Libya, where you have also the two camps blaming different international forces on interference, but also the UN itself, the UN envoy lamenting the fact that this conflict it is not going to end anytime soon because of international interference and interest. You know where the Americans stand, you know where the French, you know the Germans, you know the Russians, and therefore it is very difficult. But the big question is, what is the AU going to say in that meeting? And earlier on, last week on Sunday, when I asked President Cyril Ramaphosa about the role of the African Union in trying to bring peace in Libya, he responded that this is the matter that needs Africans themselves. And let's listen to what President Ramaphosa had to say last week, Sunday, about this conflict in Libya.
We do have that clip. Let's cue it now.
African Union is determined that we should continue to silence the guns on our continent, and as incoming chair of the AU, we will be also championing that. The AU depicted 2020 as the year of silencing the guns, and so that is an ongoing process. And Libya is one country that's so important to the African continent that we have to find peace. We cannot continue countenancing a situation where there continues to be war in Libya, and some of the fighting is being sponsored from outside the country, and we believe that this must stop. We also welcome the truce that was announced, that there will be a truce where the warring parties will halt their hostilities, and we believe that that should give us all an opportunity to find a way of crafting a peaceful solution. And we believe that we must find African solutions to African problems. The peace that has to prevail in Libya must be a peace that is grounded in African soil. It must be pursued and led by the African Union. And this is precisely what we will be seeking to advocate in relation not only to the conflict that's raging in Libya, but also conflicts that are raging elsewhere on the continent.
Well, we hear there President Cyril Ramaphosa very adamant about, very determined to silence the guns on the continent as he takes over the rotational chairpersonship. What form of, how will he take this process forward, Sophie, do you think?
I think he will have to consult countries in the region, but also engage with other forces outside the continent, those who have interest and those who have taken sides, like the superpowers who have taken sides on this conflict, to try and make them aware that this is an African problem, and therefore they must give Africans a chance, even though they do support the intention to stabilize Libya. What you don't want to see is the repeat of the 17th of March 2011, where the NATO forces invaded Libya and many people were killed, and Gaddafi was killed, and then the superpowers thought that they have resolved the conflict. But look now, Libya has just become a failed state. Therefore, you don't want resolution 1973 again. And South Africa, unfortunately, at that time, supported the resolution. Today, we're sitting here, we regret why we agreed, and some are saying we're misled, but some sources are saying, you know, when you have new people in power, they didn't want to listen to a diplomat, the South African diplomat at the UN at that time, and therefore sided with the superpowers. And now South Africa has got this problem also. Yes, they want to mediate, but we still have to deal with our own credibility in terms of what we did in 2011.
There seems to be so much of hope pinned on this particular summit, Sophie. But how high is the risk? How much risk are we seeing now that some participants will just pay lip service to the diplomacy or this diplomatic initiative as they continue to fuel a war, like you say, for their own agendas?
For me, the solution lies within Libya itself. The Libyans themselves must take a decision that they want peace. And the two camps must really come to their senses, and they must ensure that they agree and they find a solution to this problem, because the outside forces won't be able to resolve this matter, because they have different interests, and therefore you'll have this protracted conflict going on without solution. And let's hope that the AU summit in February, this matter will be high on the agenda. Yes. And President Ramaphosa, as the incoming chair of the AU, will definitely make sure that he is dealing with this matter decisively. You had a problem with Egypt. Egypt, as the current chair and the outgoing chair of the AU, had taken side, and therefore it was difficult for President al-Sisi to intervene, because Egypt had taken sides. Let's hope that South Africa will maintain its reputation of being a peacemaker rather than taking sides. And also the issue of Resolution 1973-2011, the mess that we supported, we are not doing it again.
All right, on to some other international stories. The UK-Africa Summit is on the cards, as well as the World Economic Forum, which the President is not attending. Who are we sending as part of our South African delegation, and will we have a presence there?
Well, of course, the President is sending a delegation. We know that the Minister of International Relations will definitely have to be there to look at issues of diplomacy, but also the Minister of Finance, who is responsible for the finances of the country, is expected to lead the delegation to the World Economic Forum. President Ramaphosa took a decision to prioritize internal challenges that we are facing. You know, the ESCOM matter is currently dominating the news in South Africa, and you also have the ANC National Executive Lekgotla sitting to look at 2020, and the deliberations and the resolutions of Lekgotla will make their way into the State of the Nation that the President will have to address. But therefore it is important for him to be there. Whatever has to be communicated to the nation that speaks to the ANC resolutions and policies, the President really is comfortable with that, because going to London, it would have meant that he was going to leave on Saturday and he was going to miss Lekgotla today and Monday discussions, and therefore I think he took a wise decision to focus on the internal matters. I mean, the ministers are fine, they can handle those talks in Davos and also in the UK. Of course, the UK becomes a bit tricky because as the incoming chair, the summit, it's UK-Africa Summit. As the incoming chair, many had expected that he will be there to give direction as a co-chair. But I think Egypt will still be a co-chair. And of course, they will hand over to South Africa whatever discussions that are likely to happen there as soon as South Africa becomes the chair of the AU in February, early February this year. A big task for President Ramaphosa to ensure that the AU resolution on silencing the gun in 2020 does happen, but it's unlikely because you have all these pockets of conflict in different parts of the continent, and Libya in particular.
Ma'am Sophie Mokoena, our foreign news editor, joining us on the desk. Thank you for sharing those insightful commentary with us. Time to take